I guess we'll find out.
Hi, everybody. I'm live here with Katherine Lazaruk. We are on the steps of the Vancouver Art Gallery, and we are in the beautiful downtown core of Vancouver, and we are talking about a new age in leadership, a new look, if you will, to leadership. And Katherine, for the past decade, has been doing executive presence coaching and consulting. She goes into corporations all the time and works with women primarily, or men as well?
Men and women. So it's individuals and executive teams. I would say my private practice is mostly women.
Okay. And it's how they can lead in their own way and not feel like we need to be a certain person to be a good leader. Can you explain a little bit more about leadership?
So it's really about defining your own path in leadership nowadays. And you and I talked a little bit earlier about how things are changing, but still have a long way to go. So I think it's really about the way that we understand leadership in the past, or typically, has been from a masculine paradigm. So it's leading from the front, it's speaking up, it's speaking your mind, bringing your ideas forward, jumping into conversations, making sure you're seen and visible at the front of rooms. It's really about leading from the front. Whereas if people are really interested in creating diversity in their leadership teams, then we need to be looking at other ways that leadership is manifest that we don't know about yet, or don't traditionally consider to be leadership.
I love it. So how, and that's, I mean, you just said that so beautifully. How can corporations start to incorporate this new way of looking at leadership and allowing different diversities and different genders to stand up and lead in their own way?
I think one of the chief issues is that people who are in senior executive positions that are looking for people to join their teams need to think about two things. First thing they need to think about is adjusting their own radar. One of the best statements I ever heard an executive make a ways back was about how radar works. So what he said, the thing about radar is you have to tell it what to look for. So If you don't even know what you're looking for, you can't possibly find it anywhere. So I think senior executives need to really pay attention to who is in their pipeline, who is in their company profile. Are they seeking out people who look different, who present differently, who are more introverted versus extroverted? Are they looking for people of different color? Are they looking for people of different cultures? And do they really want to do the work of diversity, or are they just paying lip service?
Right.
Blah, 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 diversity, blah, 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 gender, blah, 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 racial activism. Yeah. And then when it comes to actually doing something about it, they don't necessarily want to do the hard work. So I think it's considering who you're looking for and how much you actually want to commit and how much you really care about diversity. Truthfully care about it. Because if you're not doing something about it, you don't care as much as you think you do.
Exactly, because that would mean that there would be a paradigm shift in the way that they have been doing business up until this point, because they're allowing other voices to step forth and start to value what they value and see that they bring worth in a different way than they're used to seeing.
Right, and it's also people giving up their power and giving up their privilege in order to have a truly equal society with equal discussions. The people that are currently in power, chiefly male, chiefly white, need to say, okay, I'm willing to step back and I'm willing to hear other perspectives and I'm willing to sit with the discomfort of being in those conversations, understanding that you're going to mess it up. One of my favorite racial justice activists is Rachel Ricketts. She's on Instagram and other places. Amazing. She does great workshops. She's very hardline, very aggressive about it, which is excellent, because I think sometimes we need an aggressive approach. One thing I hear a lot of from people is they say, we're getting there. And I sometimes want to challenge that.
Yeah,
say,
be like, wow, you're there.
Yeah, are you there yet? Like, how long is this going to take? It's like, well, we're doing things. Okay. Oh, you can't move mountains, or it's like an iceberg, it takes a long time to melt, or it takes a long time to move around those things. And I'm like, really? No, really?
It doesn't.
So could we move a little quicker?
Yes,
on
we
this
could. Yes, we
issue?
could.
And so it's about looking for things. And then the second thing, you and I talked about it on the way over as we were walking, was leaders actually not just seeking diverse people, but also making sure that the conditions that exist in the company are comfortable for diverse people. Exactly. So sometimes people say, hey, we want you to come and play in our sandbox. Oh, look at our great sandbox. Our sandbox is so fantastic. Come over here and play in it. but they're never once thinking about the structure of the sandbox and saying, oh, so we get diverse people in the pipeline, we get them into our companies, but then they leave. Well, why are they leaving? And they're probably leaving because something in your company is making it uncomfortable for them to be there. They don't really feel included. So I think that's a big conversation to have too, is how are you changing the company in order to make it hospitable to all different kinds of people? And that's a difficult conversation. But I think, if you can't have those difficult conversations, then what are you doing?
Amen, sister. Now, my question to you would be, what defines a good leader to you?
It's interesting. I've had some time to reflect on this recently because we all get feedback, and I recently got some challenging feedback from a team that I'm working with. And specifically, the feedback was your tone at the table is a little aggressive, or it feels too strong, or you're speaking up too much, asking too many questions, you're sitting too far forward at the table and not making space for other people. Which is interesting because in sort of collecting more information about that situation, some people perceive it that way and some people don't. So I've been thinking a lot about what that looks like. Considering I'm coaching people in it all the time too, I've got to walk my own walk, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't be sitting back and saying I'm great at it. Everybody messes up, and evidently I do too in some situations. So I think for me, a good leader is someone who's willing to take the hit. Someone who's willing to say, here's a vision that I have, here's what I think is good for our world, and also someone who's willing to say, okay, now how are we as a team going to go there? And in fact, do we want to go there? Actually asking the people around the table and involving them in the process so that when you're building something for your company, you're building it together with the people who are on the front lines, with the people who are in the back end, with the people who are your leadership team. So soliciting information, I think, is important, and listening is important. And speaking up is important. And I think sometimes what happens for me and what happens for other strong women is that when we hear this thing about, oh, well, you shouldn't talk so much. If I was a guy, I don't think we'd be having that conversation. Right. And sometimes that feedback comes from people who are afraid to speak up themselves. They would like to speak up more, but they just don't feel comfortable doing it.
Right.
And so part of my work is helping women own their own stories and being able to speak up about it more, and totally being able to take feedback and lay back if they need to. Like, I can do that. I just don't always.
And I hear you. I kind of run around bossing, Ryan around, and then he goes and does the work, and I'm like, oh, we didn't really need that or whatever. And he'll be like, well, you're just saying things, and then I'm doing them, and I'm like, you need to speak up and tell me that I'm wrong, right? And and it's like, I love this idea of just getting the feedback, and like as a visionary, maybe even being able to take a step back and take the urgency out of every little idea you have, right, and be able to workshop it a little. Right. Because in my mind, I think that's wasting time. Let's just get to what we got to do.
Yes,
but
you're aim ready. You're fire, aim ready.
Am I fire, aim ready? Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay, yeah. This is good. And totally. The other question I had for you too is just around then we'll go, is just around the presence piece. Yeah. So you kind of originally started your career a decade ago in image consulting. Yeah. But it was never really about the clothes. It was always about what our inner heart wanted to express through our expression of who we are. Yeah. I don't know how best to say that, because you really helped me through that, and you've helped like hundreds of women and men through that. And now you've included that piece in the executive coaching that you do as well.
Yes, because the thing is that that piece of it is only one facet, right? So it's a visual reflection. So the thing that you're describing is essentially, who am I as a person? How is my surface appearance, behavior, and communication reflecting my true self? Mm-hmm. Because if you're trying to be something you're not, if you're hiding something, it's going to come out somewhere. It's not authentic.
Or you're just uncomfortable.
Or you're just or you're uncomfortable. You're fidgeting, or you're not yourself. Yeah. Right. So
that's like me wearing like tight dresses.
Yeah,
and just like it's horrid.
I'm not going to do it. That's right. Yeah, and it's interesting because then, and the other thing too is, if you're masking like that, it also makes it difficult to take feedback.
Right, because you're not open.
Right, and if somebody gives you feedback, you're like, yeah, that's totally valid. Yeah, I do that all the time. This is not news to me. I've heard it before. And, what am I going to do to fix it moving forward?
Right? Or can I fix it?
Can I fix it, or am I just always going to be like this?
This might be who I am. Yeah.
Oh, well, might be
yeah, it's true.
And then you got to find the right container. So part of leadership is also, I think, as a leader, not only being able to take feedback, being able to solicit feedback from your team, being able to have a vision, it's also about helping your people find the right place for themselves. and helping you find the right place for yourself as well. Because a certain kind of leader is going to be valuable for a certain kind of organization.
Mm-hmm.
And every leader has a place in every organization. So if you're an introvert, if you're an extrovert, if you're a woman, you're a man, if you're a person of color, if you're white, if you're anything that you are, belongs someplace in the world. So figuring it out.
Anything you are belongs someplace in the world. That's always a really good reminder, because a lot of times, especially when you're a leader, you feel very alone and isolated, because I always talk about this with my girlfriends, just that we're kind of propelling a new idea forward, or we're pioneering something, and there's not really anyone there that's been in that space yet, because you're kind of creating it. And it's nice to know that you still belong. And I see where you're talking about it in a corporate setting,
Mm-hmm.
or in a business setting, is that if someone's working with you, there has to be a place for everyone. Yeah. And to honor that and see their individual strengths.
That's right. So your leadership presence, or your executive presence, needs to reflect who you are right down to your bones. There should be no discrepancy between the way that you are and the way people see you.
I love that. Okay.
I mean, you can't control the way people are going to perceive you, so that's beyond your control, but there's lots you can control.
Love it. Okay, so if you want to control your presence and get with who you are and be able to authentically showcase that every day in every way and within your organization, Katherine is being very generous and offering one of her 45-minute executive presence coaching calls. If you would like that, give me a "me please" in the comments, and I will draw the winner later today.
Okay.
So thank you very much, everybody, for watching.
Yeah,
Yes.
and two, I wanted to say, so if you're interested in having more information, on my website, lzrkconsulting.com, there's a form there to apply for a short exploratory call, and that's half an hour, and we sit down and chit-chat about what your situation is and where you'd like to go, and maybe we could do some work together if we find that there's a fit. So that's also an option for anybody else who's watching.
And I just really want to reiterate, I've known Katherine for almost her whole career, and she and I have gone both through a lot of iterations of who we are and trying to get to the core of ourselves so that we can present and be able to articulate clearly what we're here to give. And she has helped me immensely with my journey, and I very highly recommend her, and she's a great friend and an amazing woman to work with. So if you're needing any help with your presence or your coaching in that capacity from an executive standpoint, being the leader, Katherine will work with you and you will not regret it. Just saying. Okay, we're going to go eat some poke.
Yum.
And enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.